Okay, again, as usual, we will start with a short mindful breathing exercise, watching the breath mindfully. And then we can try to generate good intention, motivation. The purpose of our life is to be not only benefit to oneself, but to be help and benefit to others as much as we can, directly, indirectly, through any of the three doors. And the best way to help and benefit is to help them to overcome their own delusions and obscurations. And to help them to achieve not only temporary happiness, but ultimate happiness. And to be able to help them in that way, with our own direct experience, we ourselves need to be free from all the delusion, all the obscurations, and actualize all the positive qualities, spiritual realizations. By achieving fully awakened state. Therefore, may I be able to achieve fully awakened state as soon as quick as possible. I'm going to put effort to achieve that fully enlightened state. For that, I need to practice. To practice, I need to learn, as well as a reminder of practice. For that very reason, I'm going to listen. Okay. So then, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Self. By the merits I create to listen to the Dharma. May I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodam Soke Sonam Shanch Batu Tane Kapuch Taki Shushe Gibe Sonam Dola Penche Sangye Dola Sangye Chodam Soke Sonam Shanch Batu Tane Taki Shushe Gibe Sonam Dola Penche Sangye Dola 이제 도저히 녀석네 또 어떤 제품에서 담배 손에 대는 뭐든 될라서 so we have been I think this is the fifth sessions, second last, and I think next will be the last sessions, yeah. And so we have been going through the Tome both 37 both of practices, and up to now we have finished verse number up to 17, and when verse number 18. And again, he started with the preliminary practices for the bodhicitta, and then the bodhicitta, conventional bodhicitta, and part of that, then engaging into some of the precept or the practice of Bodhisattvas, how to deal with different challenges or difficulty or obstacles that could manifest in our life. So I think we are on that. And so next verse number 18 and 19 is on when when you are in verse number 18, how to transform extremely poverty and other situation when we face that. When we face extreme poverty or extreme sufferings, that can become obstacles to practice the Dharma, and especially the Bodhisattva practice. We can be easily discouraged, and we can be easily lose our confidence, and so then sometimes we might give up the practice. On the other hand, in verse number 19, when you have too much wealth and too many things everything going so well, also that could become another obstacles, to practice the Dharma, to practice the Mahayana, because you get distracted. And so therefore, both situations can become an obstacle to our Dharma practice, and especially the Mahayana Bodhisattva practice. And so therefore, he's specifically kind of mentioning that and how to practice, and in such situation, how to transform such situation into the path, into the practice. So in verse number 18, though you lack what you need, so basic needs sometimes, because we are so poor, we might have lack of basic needs, not having shelter, not having sometimes enough to keep ourselves warm when it's too cold. Sometimes not even having necessary for even survival food, sometimes. So sometimes we can end up in that situations, And not only that, on top of that, not only you are so poor and in such a poverty, then constantly people disparage you, people talk bad about you, look down upon you, and then on top of that, afflicted by the dangerous sickness, and then on top of that, then you also have some illness, sickness, and then sometime, there might be some kind of harm from local spirit or the spirit of your place, whatever, you know. So when so many things coming together, not only one problem, so many suffering, so many problems, when all this come together, sometimes we might feel, you know, there's no reason to practice. It doesn't help, you know. Everything seems very dark, everything seems very low, you know, things feel like everything going in the wrong directions, you know. Dharma is not helping, Dharma is not improving my situations. And so, you know, those kind of thoughts could arise in such situations and make you very discouraged, can make you very discouraged, can make you doubt about your own practice, can make you doubt your own practice, not only your own practice, the Dharma itself, the path itself, you know. And it can happen when you are dealing with so much pain endlessly, or so much pain or problem at one time. And so here, even if such happens, you know, even so many such obstacles, difficulties, challenges arises, manifested at the same time like that, then he said, without discouragement, take on the misdeeds, you know, and the pain of all living beings. This is the practice. So instead of being discouraged, then, you know, we can try to think, oh, it's a good sign. It's a sign of purifications. It is not sign of bad, it is sign of good. The problem, the sufferings, if you look from Dharma point of view, it is not something bad, it is positive, because I'm purifying all this negative karma now, so then, you know, it will be better in the futures. So there will be less obstacle, less problem in the futures. So therefore, it's worthwhile going through this those problems at the moment with such understanding. Then we try to accept joyfully, you know, with the joyfulness, all the obstacles, all the suffering, all the pain. We try to see it as something positive, and we try to accept it positively. And if we are able to accept it positively, then it doesn't become so much painful. It doesn't become so much painful. It doesn't become obstacles. It doesn't become problem anymore. And so with that, then also we try to see, you know, I'm the not only one who is going through that. There are so many other beings who are experiencing similar like me, or even much more worse than me. You know, there are so many beings in the world or in the universe who are experiencing similar or even much worse than myself. And with that understanding, try to feel their pain, their suffering with your own experience. And then try to feel compassion for them. You know, try to feel compassion, you know. And so therefore your situation, your pain, lead you to feel compassion for others. Because of your experience, you are able to feel them better. And through that, it helps you to feel compassion, loving kindness. And so try to feel the loving kindness and compassion for them. And then, you know, out of that loving kindness and compassion, then, you know, then you try to do the Tonglen practice, you know. By me experiencing that, may no one have to experience such pain, such obstacles, such challenges, difficulty. May I be able to experience on behalf of them, so nobody have to experience that. You know, by me experiencing, may I be able to experience on behalf of everyone, so that they don't have to experience so no one have to experience such pain, problem, obstacles. And if you can, on top of that, if someone is even more stronger, if you feel strong, then on top of that, then you see, you try to take others' sufferings and cause of their suffering on yourself. All their suffering, all their pain, all their obstacles, all their challenges, difficulty on yourself, as well as the cause of those pain, the negative karma, all the delusion of them on yourself. And then you can try to send all your positive qualities, all the virtues, all the happiness towards them. So you try to do the Tonglen if you can. Even if we cannot do the Tonglen, at least by me experiencing that, may no one has to experience, may I be able to experience on behalf of them. So through that, then, that is how transforming. Instead of being discouraged, now you turn into something courageous. Not only you are courage to take on this whatever is obstacles, suffering that is happening, but you are even have courage to take more on that. You are saying, give me more, give me more, give me more. May all other people's suffering and cause of suffering come on me. So that is, of course, it might not be easy for a lot of us, but the Bodhisattvas, if you train your mind, it is able to do that. And those Bodhisattvas, they have the courage to take on more. And so that is, so if you can do that, then it's building up your courage. Is building up your courage to deal with, any kind of challenges, difficult, suffering, pain. So that is here. And similarly here, 19, though you become famous, so again, due to, your education, due to your power, due to your positions, due to whatever your field, you might be very successful and famous, renowned, maybe you might have, someone might get a lot of coverage in the news, everyone knows about you, so become famous, many bows to you, and then, many ones respect you, show you high respect, so on. And then you gain riches to equal to Vesavaranas, and you have a lot of wealth, become most rich, or one of the most rich, So when we have all this, people respect you, you are famous, you are well-known, reputation, good reputation, people respect you, people, you have a lot of friends, surroundings, when all this becomes, again, for a lot of people, it will become a distractions. And these become distractions. Distraction from the Dharma practice. Distraction from the Bodhisattva path. It can become. And, even we can see with our own experience and people around us, sometimes we see, we see even among the students or in the Dharma community, sometimes some people lose the path when they face too much challenges, too much obstacle in their life, and they don't know how to deal with that, and they have challenges, and then, sometimes they lose the path. And then sometimes things, things change in their life externally. A lot of things change positively, externally, positive, a lot of change. Also, I've seen people, then they get, again, distracted from the Dharma because they become too busy with other things, all other things. They don't have time for practice. They don't have time for study, practice. And slowly, they get distracted. and so, and also when all things goes wrong, also we can become very, lead to a very pride, delusional pride, thinking I'm so special, I'm superior, I'm better than others because of everything, all these external good things that is happening in your life. And because you have good health, because you are healthy, young, and all others, wealth, fame, people seem to respect you, like you, and with all that, we can be easily, unless someone has strong practice, unless someone has a very strong practice to keep grounded a lot of time, then we lose being grounded and we get carried away by those things. And we started to feel we are more special than we are. We started to feel we are more better than we are. And with that kind of pride, then we tend to kind of treat others, when you have that kind of arrogant, delusional pride, then we tend to, again, put others down, look down on others in some way, another way, and then it becomes obstacles for our practice. It becomes obstacle for our practice. We become distracted. It gives rise to negative emotion. Instead of reducing the negative emotion, it gives rise to negative emotions, such as pride and so forth, self-importance, all of that. And so therefore here, the advice, when we have that, then how to transform and not to get distracted and not to be so arrogant or delusional pride, and to do that, then you practice by see that worldly fortune is without essence and don't be conceited. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. And so you try to see all this, all the success, all the reputation, all the wealth, all the positive that is happening in our life at the moment, they are all in nature of samsara, in essence, there is no real essence, they are unreliable, they are unstable, there's a reputation, good reputation tomorrow. One of the advice Nagarjuna gave to his friend, the king, in the letter to the king, friend, is that, even though whole citizen might respect you and you have all that, but due to your small mistake, you can go down, just like that. So be careful, be mindful, not to feel that you are very special. And so that's what we see even in the world, someone who has the best reputations, everyone respect, and one small mistake, they become the worst person in the world. In media, everywhere is all about that person, and it's, you might be most rich person now, and you could become very poor very quickly. You might have good health now, in one moment that could change. We might have a lot of friends and family who love us, who care us, but that could also change with small things, in small miscommunication, small misunderstanding that could change. So all these good things that are happening in our life at the moment, they're so, fragile, unstable, unreliable. And so therefore, we shouldn't be so attached to it. We shouldn't be so proud about it. It could come and it could go like that. It could go like this, and therefore you might be no one. And therefore, we shouldn't be so proud about that and feel negative pride and feel you are something so, superior than others. Because when we started to feel that, then it become And because of that feeling of stupidity and delusional pride conceit, then you treat others. There's always the way you treat and look others a little bit down. And that is against the Bodhisattva practice. That is against the Bodhisattva mind, And so, therefore, it deteriorates your compassion, your loving kindness, your Bodhisattva mind, your Bodhisattva practice. So that, and the next one, next verse, again, all the delusions, all the afflictive emotional delusions are again, big obstacles for our spiritual growth, our happiness of others. There are obstacles for growth of our spiritual path, our spiritual realizations, especially the loving kindness, bodhicitta, compassion, bodhicitta mind. So, and among the delusions, then one of the two main delusions is attachment and anger. And then ignorance. Those three are what we call three poisonous, three root delusions. And so therefore, again, he is here mentioning specific those delusions, how to deal with those delusions, and how to transform them into the path. Maybe I also wanted to mention a little bit with the first, previous verse. When things are going well in our life, when things are going well externally, we recognize that, we appreciate that, and we try to remember the kindness of others. We are all having these good things because of the kindness and contribution of others, and then again, remember the kindness of others, remember the contribution of others for everything that we have at the moment. And then, again, dedicating everything positive thing that we have also for all sentient beings. May all other sentient beings also have good health like myself. May all sentient beings have also, good reputation like myself. May all sentient beings have also, good wealth like myself. May all sentient beings have good family, friends surrounded like myself, whatever. So in that way, again, that is how we can try to transform in that way too. And also do the tonglen with that too. So especially with the 18 taking and with 19 giving, But of course, we can apply both tonglen in each of them too. And so the verse number 20 is dealing with the anger. So here it says, while the enemy of your own anger is unsubdued, though you conquer external foe, you will always increase. So here is saying, and anger is one of the main obstacles to develop true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind to all sentient beings. If you have anger, you cannot have love and compassion for that person or that being in that moment. You cannot have those two feelings at the same time. And so if you want to develop true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind to all sentient beings all the time, that is what bodhicitta is. That is what the bodhisattva is. Anger. As long as you have anger, then and so that's main obstacles. And of course, anger is, as Shangdeva explained, in terms of harming others, anger is the direct negative emotion that is the most harmful, that can create most harm to others, becoming violent, aggression, and so forth. So it harms others, it harms you, and so that is the real enemy. If there is any enemy, your anger is the real enemy. The others, external enemy here, as Shandeva said also, he said, they are not true enemy. They are not true enemies. Real enemy is the anger. If you can get rid of your enemy, you don't have any enemy, external enemy. Buddha have no enemy from their side. From Buddha's side, there is no feeling of enemy, anyone enemy. For them, all is equal because they don't have the anger. You know, so when you don't have anger, then there is no sense of enemy. You know. On the other hand, if you don't subdue your anger, the internal enemy, if you don't try to overcome that, even you try to get rid of the external enemy, you can never get rid of them. How many you are going to get rid of them? Throughout the history, each country has tried to get rid of the enemy. Still, thousands of years have passed. Still, there is enemy. Still, there is enemy. You know, you can get rid of the whole countries. You can kill the whole populations. Still, is not going to end the enemy. As long as you anger, you know, when things doesn't go the way you want, when others doesn't listen to you, others doesn't agree with you, and all this can, again, as long as your anger lead to the anger, and then you see them as enemy. You know? So you cannot hear similar Shantideva say, you cannot end the external enemy unless you end the internal enemy of the anger. Even there is no being in the world, if you have anger, the tree become enemy. You know, the plant become enemy. You get upset, agitated by the trees. You get an upset and agitated by the plant. You get upset and agitated by the sound. You get upset and agitated by the elements, the wind, the snow, the rain, the heat. You can be upset and angry with all of them as long as you have that negative energy of anger. Even there's no one, so there's no way you can get rid of all that. And so that is, you know, here he said the main enemy is not the external one, not the external, is the internal. Your anger is the main enemy. And that is the way we need to subdue. And similarly, Shantideva said, you know, he said, you know, if you live in a place where the whole area is full of thorny bushes, you know, if you try to cut all of them, you cannot cut it. If you try to, you know, to protect yourself from being pricked by them, if you try to cover them with the skin, leather, all, you cannot. But instead of trying to do that, you just put a leather shoe on yourself and you can be safe. And you don't have to destroy all others. You just need to wear one shoes, leather shoes that can protect. It doesn't have to be leather, but of course there is giving example leather, but it can be any metal one that can protect you. Small things on your shoes, and you are protected. Same way, you just have to deal with your anger. You just need to subdue that, and you don't have to try to change everything outside other people's. You don't have to try to destroy the others, you know. And so that's where similarly, yes, it is saying here, same that Nagarjuna's that verses or the point, and here is similar. And how can we overcome the anger? How can we destroy the anger? How can we minimize the anger? And so here the practice, the antidote that can destroy, that can minimize the anger is, therefore, with the militia of love and compassion, subdue your own mind. So the way to reduce and overcome your anger is by cultivating love and compassion. By cultivating love and compassion instead of. The moment you feel love and compassion with that person, then there's no more anger in that moment. And if you can keep love and compassion with that person all the time, then there's no space for the anger to arise. There's no space for the anger to arise. Your mind is taken over by the love and compassion. And when that whole space of your mind is taken by love and compassion, when that love and compassion is fully taken, then there is true love and compassion, then this. So that is how, and that is also how Buddha subdue internal and external maras. There is a praise by Lama Tsongkhapa to Buddha Shakyamuni, and where he says, without holding any external weapons, you destroy all the evils, all the maras, external, internal maras, by the power of love and compassion. And I praise to that works. So that is what the way Buddha subdue all the maras or evils or the enemies, both external, internal, is through the power of true love, true compassion. And that is how, not through anger, not through external weapons, not through any external weapons, not through any anger, but they're subdued through love and compassion. So similarly here, the advice is that. And so this is the subdue your own mind of anger through love and compassion, and that is the practice of Bodhisattva. And yeah. And next one is attachment. Is, as I mentioned, attachment is another mental factors or afflictive emotions. That is another big obstacles. And also, a lot of time, if we really analyze, anger arises from the attachments. A lot of time, anger arises from attachment as well. So here is an sensual pleasure, so like by depending on sense objects, by seeing beautiful, forms, whether it's a color, shape, by hearing a nice, beautiful sounds, music, whatever that, whether it's, natural sound or whether it's created by some others, by smelling, by tasting, by touchings, and also through mentally, So by coming in contact with those objects, object of desire, desire objects, coming in contact with desire objects, then we get attached to them. We come in contact with that desire object and we experience that object. And then through that, then we have, kind of attachment towards them, desire towards them, craving towards them, and so it is saying such attachments or the desire or craving are like the salt water. And here, the more you indulge, the more thirsty increase. That is what salt water does. Salt water, The more you drink, the more you indulge, the more thirst you have, the more you feel you need more water to quench that thirst. And that is the effect of the salt water. Similarly, attachment lead to only more want, only more needs. It doesn't give you sense of content and satisfactions. It makes you more unsatisfied. It makes you less uncontent. It makes you wanting more and more, wanting more and more, better and better. And so therefore, by following the attachment, you can never find true happiness and true satisfactions. That's what it's saying. It might give you at the very beginning, it might give you a very little sense of pleasure. Okay? When you come in contact of such objects, desirable, attractive or desirable or whatever, object you encounter. And by encountering that, and by experiencing that, it might give you a little bit of sense of pleasure at the very beginning. But in long term, it leads you to more unhappiness, more dissatisfied. It gives you a moment of pleasure, but then in long term, it leads you to more disappointment, more unhappiness, more dissatisfied mind, more unhappy mind. So instead of having that, it's better not to have that desire or attachment to begin with. So therefore, I think it was Aryadeva in one of, I think it is in his 400 stanzas. Or it's in Chandrakiri's commentary on that. So in one of them, it mentions, sometimes you have, in fact, I don't know, sometimes you have a rash or something, and it's become itchy, I don't know what you call. So sometimes you have, and so when you scratch it, it gives you some pleasure, isn't it, at the very beginning, because it's itchy. It gives you a kind of, when you scratch it at the very beginning, and then you feel like you have to scratch, and then slowly, it becomes a problem. Then there's wounds. If you don't stop doing that, if you don't stop scratching it, then you start to scratch, and then you make it a wound, you make a sore, and so even though it gives you a little pleasure at the very beginning, but at the end, if you keep on doing that, what it lead to? If you keep on doing that, what it lead to? It lead to more problems, more pain, more suffering. Such is that. So therefore, he said, it's better not to have that easy to start with, and that is the true happiness. Similarly, and so that is the example that he gave, and very true. That is what the attachment give you little pleasure, little sense of satisfaction, little sense of happiness or joy at the very beginning. But if it is driven by the attachment, it can never lead you to true sense of true satisfactions, true happiness. It always leads you to, in long term, dissatisfied. You always want more, better, more and more, and so that is the functioning, and that's the nature of the attachment. So therefore, trying to abandon that attachment. How can we abandon? So abandon once those things which breed clinging attachments. So you try to see the object of attachments. Trying to see the object of attachments, the object that give arise to attachments. Seeing they are not, there's no real essence in that. That it cannot really give us true happiness. There's no essence in that. They are in the nature of, samsara, impermanent, ever-changing, unstable, unreliable. Seeing, instead of seeing, trying to see it as attractive, trying to see it as unattractive, try to see it as, so trying to see the negative side of it, the negative quality or negative side of that, so that we don't have so much strong attachment to that. That if you see the negative side, if you see the shortcoming, not only the positive side, but there's the negative side of that, then your attachment becomes less. What happens when we have attachment is hard to see the negative side. We only see the positive side. That attachment blind our mind. That attachment, anger blind our mind, attachment blind our mind. Anger makes us to see everything negative. On the other side, the attachment, blind us from seeing the shortcoming, the negative qualities in that object, but so if you try to see, not only, even though there's something goodness, even there's some positiveness in that, or even there is some, but if you try to see the negative side, then you don't get as strong attachment as you will, and through that, then we can reduce the attachments. Like, yeah. Yeah, by seeing, the objects as impure, and so forth, and in the nature of suffering and so forth. And this is the practice of Bodhisattvas. That is the practice of the Bodhisattvas, giving up attachment, letting go of attachment. Because if you have attachments, your mind becomes biased. When you have attachment, your mind becomes biased. Your mind becomes biased, there is no way that you can develop true love, true compassion, or the great compassion and great love and bodhicitta. There's no space for bodhicitta, because your mind is being biased. For bodhicitta, your mind, to have your bodhicitta mind, your mind should be unbiased, feeling same for everyone's, same level of love, same level of compassion, all sentient beings. But when you have attachment, your mind is biased. Your mind become with the anger and the attachment, anger and attachments, both of them make your mind biased. And so therefore, with that biased mind, you cannot feel same for everyone all the time, and therefore, again, that become obstacles to develop great compassion, great love, and bodhicitta mind. And so reducing and overcoming the attachments, we are creating better condition, cause condition to develop true great love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and developing mind to more open, more equanimity, less bias. So up to here is part of the conventional bodhicitta mind. And from here is the ultimate bodhicitta mind and the wisdom, starting the wisdom part here, the wisdom of the ultimate bodhicitta. And within the wisdom on emptiness, then of course, normally there are two meditations, space like, and meditation on emptiness like a space, and space like emptiness, meditating on space like emptiness, and meditating on illusion like emptiness. There are two ways of contemplating, meditating, and at first starting with space like emptiness meditations. So here it says, whatever appear in your mind, whatever your mind appear in your mind, whatever object appear in your mind, pleasant, unpleasant, nice, bad, good, bad, nice, unnice, happiness, sufferings, external, internals, samsara, nirvana, whatever object appears in your mind from the start was free from the fabricated extreme, Whatever object appears in your mind, they appear, to exist from objectively from their own side, from their side. Whatever object, whether it is the external object or internal object, whatever object that appears to our mind, it appears to our mind, ordinary mind, we have no realization of emptiness. To such mind, they always appear to exist inherently or to exist from its own side objectively. To that mind. But, such fabricated extreme is that, that appearance and that grasping, from the start, there was never inherent existing objects. There was never object that exists from its own side or by itself. It was always free from that from the very start. It was never. It was like there was at one time that there was inherent existence, and now it became non-inherent existence. It's not like that. Like before, there was cup in this room, and then you broke it, and it's no more there now. So the cup was there before, but it's no more there. So it's not something like that. When you talk about emptiness, it's not something like that. From the very nature of that object, from the start, from the very existence of that object, the nature of that has been empty of inherent existence, empty of existence from its own side, empty of existing by its own objectively, So that is why it's free from the fabricated extreme. Understanding this, do not take to the mind inherent signs of object, subject, and object. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So with that understanding, then we try to not to cling and grasp or apprehend the object and subject to exist inherently. So basically, from the Siddhamadhara mind only school of thoughts, and there's no object that exists from its own side. Everything is projection of your mind. Everything projection of your mind. Everything is the nature of your mind. And then in Prasangya point of view, then everything is merely imputed, designated by the mind. There's nothing that can exist from its own side. Even though the object appear to our mind to exist from its own side, if it exists from its own side, if it truly exists from its own side as it appears to our mind, then when you analyze this within the objects, within the part of its objects, then you cannot pinpoint, you cannot find it. You cannot pinpoint, you cannot find it. If it's something true, the more deeper you go in, the more you investigate, the more clear it has to be. If there is something true in the informations, whatever information, if there is truth in that, the more deeper investigation you do, the more clear it becomes. Whether it's truth or it's not truth. And if it's truth, then it becomes more clear and clear why it is more deeper and deeper investigation you go in. But here, the more, when you don't investigate, when you don't analyze, it seems it appears to our mind to exist from its own side, truly exist from its own side. But then when we try to analyze within the objects, and within the part that make objects, within each of those, then you cannot really pinpoint, you cannot really locate, you cannot really say this is that, this is the object, that object. It becomes less and less clear. It becomes so that shows is not truly existence. The more investigation, more deeper investigation, the more ultimate analysis you do, the more unclear it becomes. And the more unclear it becomes, and unable to point it, unable to locate, unable to pinpoint, unable to find. So therefore, it's a clear sign that it does not exist truly, it is not truly existent. It do not exist from is objectively or from object side. If it exists objectively from object side, then when you analyze, you should be able to find within the object the part which make that object. Within that is part we have to find. And so therefore is empty of inherent existence, truly existing objectively, existing by itself or from its own side. If it exists from its own side by itself, then it will be able to exist without depending on other factors, other conditions, other factors. But all the objects, without depending on other factors and conditions, they cannot exist by itself, independent by itself. Even though when you do that kind of analysis, it becomes unclear, and even though you cannot pinpoint, even though you cannot locate within the part of the objects, even though you cannot find, but at the same time, you cannot say it do not exist, because there is some appearance, and then there is it affects others. It has functioning and it affects others. So you cannot say there is nothing there, it cannot exist, because it's our direct experience. We are affected by those objects, and people get affected by the objects. They experience different experiences in relation to the objects. That is a direct experience of different beings. And so therefore, there must be something, and there is something that exists. There must be something. And the way so how they exist, if they do not exist from its own side objectively by itself, then the way it exists and function is by coming together of the basis, on the basis of coming together the part or on the basis, then the mind, the thought, imputing, on the basis of that imputation, on the basis of that. And so, it is explained in sutras and also the Seven Dalai Lama, as he mentioned in one of his song of experience, spiritual experience song. He give example, in the dream, when you dream of someone, you are just dreaming. There's no one really, you dream of someone in your house, in your room at that moment. But that is just a dream. There's no real that person's in that moment, in that room. It's just a dream, Same, the illusion created by someone, whatever illusion through their different, whatever trick they do to illusions. And even though it's not, they create some objects, or to our mind, we see some objects, and it's not real that object, but it's just a deceptions through their trick, So there is nothing that real persons in that room, and there's no real object that has been created by that deceptions, that trick. But there is appearance. There is appearance of those objects. In the dream, there is appearance of that person in the dream, in that room, in that moment. In the illusions, magic, there is an appearance of whatever object they created through trick. There's appearance. And so that is, that appearance is merely due to our mind, perception of our mind. There's no real person. It's due to our dreaming mind. We see that it's due to our mind of the illusion, the trick, that we see that due to the mind, but there's no real object. That object, it appears. And similarly, that is how everything is like that. How everything's, even though they appear to exist truly or inherently existing or from objective side, but there's nothing objective. It's all coming from the mind. It's all coming from the mind imputing the objects, the mind imputing the objects. It exists only on that imputation level, designation level. So, and this is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. And next is the meditations on the illusion-like meditations, the practice of illusion-like meditations. And especially through that illusion-like meditation, then trying to overcome the attachment and anger, in dealing with that. So letting go of attachments, applying an antidote. He already explained one method before by seeing, unattractiveness, essenceless of the objects, unpleasant quality of the objects, by seeing the nature of the samsara and so forth. But here also is same, is about letting go of attachment, but through understanding the emptiness. Through the understanding of emptiness. And this method, letting go of attachment through the understanding of emptiness, illusion like emptiness, is more powerful than the previous one. It's much more powerful antidote, much more powerful practice, meditations. Even though both of them are antidote to the attachments. When you encounter attractive objects, though they seem beautiful, attractive, nice, even though that is how they seem or they appear, they appear beautiful, attractive, pleasant, nice, good, but understanding that is just a deceptions. That is just a deceptions. That appearance is just a deceptions. By recognizing that that appearance is deception because, even though there's appearance that object to exist beautiful from its own side, nice, attractive, good, positive from its own side, objectively. But if you analyze, there's nothing beautifulness, there's nothing attractiveness, there's nothing positiveness, there's nothing goodness from its own side objectively. From objective side, from its own side. And therefore, like a rainbow in summer, don't regard them as real. And by understanding they are not as real as it appears, through that understanding, and by understanding they are not true and real as it appears to the mind, instead those appearances and deceptions, false, with that understanding, then give up the attachments. The attachment arises because we believe in that appearance. Because we get attached to the objects because we believe in that appearance. We don't see the appearance as deception and false because we think that appearance is true and real. Is real, true, beautiful, and attractive, and nice, and good, positive from its own side, objectively as it appears. But when we understand and see, that is just a deception. There's nothing that, all this, the beauty that you see in the object is actually coming from your mind, not from the object. The attractiveness that you see in the objects is not from objective side, from its own side, it's coming from your mind. The positiveness, the goodness that you see in objects that seems to appear from object is not from that, it's coming from the mind. It's coming from the mind. And so therefore, when you see that, then, you have less attachment, and again, is to give an example, to use an example, we can use, if the beautiness or attractiveness or goodness, positiveness, whatever that, if it is come from objectively from its own side or inherently, truly, then, if that object appeared to me, beautiful to me, it should be, and it is beautiful from its own side, it should be beautiful for everyone. Everyone who come in contact, it has to be beautiful for everyone. But that is not the case. For some, it might seem beautiful. For some, they might not seem ugly. For some, it might sound neither of them, not so beautiful, not ugly, kind of, in middle. Even in those who see beautifulness, if we ask them to give a mark, how beautiful from 1 to 10, we will all might come different numbers, So again, even, and same if there are people who see unattractive or not beautiful, ugly, if we ask them to give number of that also, because, but if it comes from its own side, that should be equal to everyone, because it's nothing to do with our mind. It's nothing to do with the mind. It's all about from objectively. It's objective. It's something to do with the object. It's nothing to do with our mind. Therefore, it should be, but that is not the case. That is no. Yeah, and therefore, as it says, is this English saying? I think beauty is in the eyes of those. What beauty in the eyes of
the beholder.
Beholder.
Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder.
Beholder. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, that is the teaching of the Buddha. Same thing, If you look with there is a teachings, as well as very based on that teachings, very famous song in Nepal, composed by one Buddhist musicians, sung by the Aniching Doma, in her voice, and it became very popular. And the main theme of that song is, if you look with eyes of flower, you see the world as a flower. If you see the world with the thorny eyes, you see the whole world as a thorny. So that is the main. Of course, there's much more, and so this same is based on the Buddha's teachings. And so it's more from, and we see that people's life, same country, same situations. Some people see horrible. This country is horrible, and other people say this country is the best and great. Because of their mental state, how they see things, how they interpret their mind. For some, America is the worst countries. For some, America is the best countries. For some, is in between. And but what is really America? Is it really the best country? Is it the worst country? It's neither of them. America is by itself neither the best country, neither the worst countries. It depends on the people's mind, how they look, how they interpret it, how they perceive, what they see, what they don't see. So, but there is nothing from its own objectively side. So that I'm giving this, and we are also not talking about, like sometimes we can think, oh, he or she see this is the best place because he or she doesn't understand the real what you call real situation of some and so. But even among those who understand everything honestly, they are not in the same page. The way they see the countries, the way they see not only this country, every country is like that, so I'm just giving an example how things do not exist from its own side as it's coming from the mind, so the rainbow in summer is, like when you look from the distance, it looks so colorful, and especially when it's very strong and very colorful, it feels like, it's so almost like concrete and, kind of concrete and touchable, but when you go closer, then it's become kind of vague, it's not so colorful. When you are closer and, from distance, you see so colorful, and actually when you are going through that, it's a difference, so therefore there's appearance from certain distance, and then when you are there, the reality might not be the same, and so just giving the example of that, things that really appear so real, so concrete, so solid, so true, but in reality, if you analyze, then they are not true, concrete, solid, real as it appears. And through that, understand giving attachments. Next is dealing with the anger, trying to get upset and angry, again, we get upset and angry when we come in certain conditions, certain situations, certain objects, and again, on the basis of believing when the object that appears something miserable, something bad, something negative, there's appearance of that negativeness, that badness coming from its own side, and then we believe and follow that appearance, and that lead to, aversion and anger, and dislike. So all form of sufferings, so the object of suffering and the suffering itself, okay? The object of suffering, whatever that is, maybe cold weather, hot weather, for some, too much snow, too much rain, not enough rain, not enough snow, health, not being in good health, not having the resources, or not having, even if you have resource, not having as much as we want, not having everything we want. It's not that we don't have enough, but we feel like I want that and that, everything, and not being able to have everything what we want, and those all different objects, not having a house, when having a house, not having a better house, when having a better house, not having in the right locations, and even right locations, not having in the right country, right places, so always unhappy and dissatisfied, always, that. And so those are the cause of sufferings, not having friends, and when we have friend, again, the friend becomes sufferings. Not having a friend, feel like lonely, you need a friend, and when there's a friend, then you get in discussion, conflict, and then that becomes a source of suffering again, because of all this fight or quarrel and all this, so anyway, all these object of all external, internal, all the object of suffering, and the suffering itself, again, to our mind, all of them, they appear, whatever that objects, to exist from its own side, truly, inherently, and from its own side. But again, if you analyze with the wisdom eyes, if you analyze, then there's nothing, all of those objects existing from its own side or inherently. While it does not exist inherently and truly existence and from its own side, but due to coming together of certain conditions, factors, there's appearance of object and it effect. There's functioning of that object and it effect sentient beings. So therefore, all form of suffering, as well as the object of suffering, are like a child dead in a dream. So in the dream, you can dream of child dead, but it's just a dream. It didn't really, the child didn't die. It was just a dream. It's just in your mind, dreaming mind. So trying to see all like a dream, even though all appear to exist truly inherently, but there is no truly inherent existence as it appears. Same way, holding it, illusory appearance to be true make you wary, even though everything is like illusions, even though everything is like illusions, but there's appearance of existing, truly existing, and not only there is true appearance truly existing, then we hold or perceive to exist truly existent. And when we perceive and apprehend as a truly existent, then makes you wary, sad, disturbed, agitated, all of that in relation to negative objects. Therefore, when you meet with a disagreeable circumstances, see them as illusory. This is the teaching of the Bodhisattvas. Therefore, whenever we face any objects that appear to our mind as something disagreeable, something as negative, something as unpleasant, something as with the negative qualities or something bad, negative, instead of apprehending that to be truly negative, truly disagreeable circumstances, truly bad, from its own side, we try to see, even though there is the appearance, but that is not how it really exists. They all are like illusory. There's a difference between the appearance and the way thing exists, So therefore, not being deceived by the appearance, not being fooled by the appearance, by understanding the appearance is a false, not true, and so therefore not believing in the appearance, therefore not apprehending, perceiving as it appears. And when you don't do that, then you don't need to be so upset, agitated, and angry and negative. And so therefore through that, then we can let go of all this negative feeling, negative thoughts. And this is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. Yeah. So yeah, maybe close today. So I can open for a few questions. If there is any question, comments.
Geshe,
Yes, please.
Tenden Lamo here. Geshe, could you talk about the verse you just discussed, verse 24, in terms of the suffering when it's pain in your own body? Please. Because it's if you're having severe pain, to regard that as illusory, difficult.
Yeah. Even if it's a physical pain, wherever that pain might be, if we perceive or if we cling, there's inherent existing pain. Not only is physical pain, then it makes, because we feel there is real inherently truly existing pain there, it makes more painful on emotional level. Even though there is a physical pain, but on top of that physical pain, it increases that emotional, if you focus too much on that, because believing there is the pain there, but on the other hand, if we see that as an illusory, and so here again, even with the physical pain, we are not saying there is no physical pain. Neither we are saying there is no emotional pain. What we're saying, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, to our mind, again, it appears there's inherently existing physical pain, inherently existing emotional pain. And not only this appearance, then we have that kind of clinging or grasping, believing that there is inherent existing physical pain and emotional pain. And when we this grasping, then it makes the pain more painful, more stronger. But if you see as a more illusory, then definitely you can reduce the negative mental emotions, mental pain, even to physical pain. To some degree, you might feel less of that. Even I think I don't know whether I share here, but I was sharing a story, like when your mind get too occupied with that pain itself, so your mind is totally kind of focused on that pain. When you don't see it elucidate, because you see so solid, so concrete, so real, that pain. So your mind becomes too focused on that. And your mind becomes too focused on that, you feel the pain more. And when you don't focus too much on that, you feel a little bit less. I've been noticed, like there are a couple of times when I was hiking and I was feeling the pain in my feet, because we had a long hiking, and so when I step on the stones, I can feel the pain, and so when my mind gets focused, about that pain, and when I feel that, I feel the pain more, and I feel the pain. And so then I started to, say, it is in all my mind, I started thinking, it's my mind. And so I kind of somehow distracted and somehow tried to see more than actually physically there is more in my mind. Somehow after some time I stopped feeling it. But when my mind go to that, again, I started feeling it. So I could see how of course, there was something there is something physically, there is something physical, but the way when your mind is so focused in that area or that pain, you feel more the pain. And when you are able to see it as not focus on that area or that physical pain, but you see more coming from your mind, is more coming from your mind, somehow, even on physical level, you seem to feel less of that.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you.
Okay.
And Karen has a question.
Me? Okay. Verse 21, I have two quick questions. Verse 21, the sensual pleasures one. We're born with five senses. I mean, they exist for a reason. So 21 sounds to me like addiction. I mean, what happened to the middle way?
What?
Wait, should I talk more loudly?
No, you slowly.
Okay. 21.
Yeah.
It sounds like addiction. I mean, we're born with five senses and they exist for a reason. So what happened to the middle way, the practice of the middle way?
It doesn't say you cannot enjoy. It just says you don't have attachment. Enjoying without attachment and enjoying with attachments is different. And it is talking about letting go of attachments.
So that brings me to my second question, I guess. You said anger and attachment bias the mind and block the chance for a bodhicitta mind, which makes sense. But I guess then, can a married person ever achieve a bodhicitta mind?
Absolutely.
Because by definition, isn't that a form of attachment?
Not necessarily. People can get married without attachments. People can have a relationship without attachments. So for most normal people, it will be not possible because the relationship is attachment. But that doesn't mean it's not possible to have a relationship without attachment.
Can you say more about that? What does that look like?
Well, Buddha has his relationship with his parents, his children, his wife, ex-wife, but that doesn't mean he has attachment. For most of the ordinary people, because it's not based on what my needs and your needs, expectations is more about supporting each other, helping each other. That's a relationship, whether it's parents, children, whether it's a true partner, it's more about how can I be helpful? How can I be supportive? How can we help each other? How it's nothing to do with like attached to that because you give me pleasure, because you make me happy, because I want this. If you are with me, it may give me happy. It's nothing to do. It is more about supporting each other. So there could be a relation based on that. It is not easy for a lot of people. Most
But
people.
isn't the notion of supporting in and of itself a kind of attachment?
No, no. If that is then Buddha must have the attachments. Nobody is free from attachments. No, it's not. Bodhisattva mind is a wish to help, support others. That is not an attachment. And I think probably you need to write down. I think you have asked that question many times. The definition of attachment, the definition of attachment in Buddhist, and we already. I think I already have mentioned that. What exactly the definition that particular mind attachment and. So
Well,
maybe
it's the word in English. The word in English has such.
so that is why I say so that is you. So you keep coming that question again and again so many times. That's why I say write it down. The definition that we already had. What is the definition in
All right.
Buddhism?
All right, I'll put it in the bathroom on the mirror.
Okay. Any others? Otherwise, we'll do dedication. And then next week, Bay asked me if I could do the oral transmission, so I will do because that wouldn't take so much. Okay, so we can do the dedications. Due to the merit of this virtuous action, may I quickly attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the Supreme Jewel Bodhisattva that is not arise and grow, and may that wishes arise and not diminish but increase more and more. The wish granting, wish fulfilling Jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness this world, to the incomparable contents in Geshe, I beseech. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Fearless teacher and assembly of children, the victorious one, Savaga and Vega Buddhas, victorious Lawson, father and son, alone the lineage master, all the objects of refuge of infinite land, please bestow the virtues and goodness to accomplish this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teaching through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience as never discouraged. Incomparable, Venerable Guru, to you I make request by starting single-pointedly for the sake of victorious one teaching, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mothers, living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessing of the ocean of three jewels and the great waves of Bodhisattva of children of victorious one, may the smile of reincarnation swiftly be in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Bye. Thank you.